What's up, guys? Welcome back. Glad you're here. On today's episode, we're going to be looking at another new deck from a company that is just killing it, and I can't stress it enough. That's right, we're going to be looking at the new Worx deck by CardCutz. So, buckle in your seatbelts. We're going there. Let's go. The Worx deck by CardCutz is their newest deck release in their lineup. If you're not familiar with CardCutz, they've released decks such as Fluid, Oblique, and their most recent popularized deck, the Neoteric playing cards. This deck is focused on industrial and mechanical 3D design, and it's been in the works, no pun intended, for the last year and a half. This deck came out as an early bird on October 13th of 2020 and is now available at CardCutz.com. The front of the tuck box is going to be a standardized tuck box there in all kind of a charcoal dark blackish gray color. It's going to say Worx across the front there in that fancy font, and it's going to have almost some machine saw looking gears there on the left and right. One's going to be in green and the other one in red. There's no design or text font along the sides of the tuck, and you get to the bottom, it's going to have some ad copy about CardCutz and the new designer of this deck, which is Matus Crow. There's going to be no tuck seal, making this deck easily accessible. There's going to be only Worx there at the bottom in that same text font that we saw on the front. That's it for the tuck box. Let's look at the cards. This deck does come printed by the U.S Playing Card Company on their crushed classic stock. That's right, it does have a traditional cut and an air cushion emboss, and this was a limited edition run of only 4,000 decks. The back design on the deck itself is going to look very close to what we saw on the front of the tuck box with those different 3D gears, mechanics, and saw-looking blades. Well, it's going to be every cardist's dream, especially when those red and green colors that we see there on that two-way image pop at every flourish off of that black and gray background. You're also going to have those bright white medium poker borders as well. Alright, with this deck you're going to receive some extra cards in true CardCutz fashion. You're going to get the typical CardCutz ad card there. The next card is going to be a double backer, but not just any double backer, that's right. As you can see, one side is this all white color and the other one is this back design. Not sure, but maybe it could be a nod of what's to come for the V2. The last two cards you're going to get are going to be your duplicate and original Jokers, that's right. You're going to have those stars there in the center in that same 3D kind of mechanical fashion. It's going to say Joker in each of the opposite corners, the top left in red and the bottom right in black. The pips and indices in this deck are all 100% custom. As you can see, you're going to have those 3D pips there in the center popping out at you at every single card. Same thing goes for the quartz in this deck. As you can see, they replaced the faces with the same 3D mechanical letters. The K's are for kings, the Q's are for queens, and so on. The mechanics are going to be in the shape of the coinciding letter. As you can see, the blacks have the green and the reds have the red, going along with the theme that we've been seeing in this deck. Same thing goes for the aces, those same one-way images of those mechanical gears in the shape of the pip there. As you can see, very beautiful red and green, just beautiful art all the way through and through. No one is prominent than the other. That's it for the deck. Join me now for my final thoughts. Alright, so my final thoughts on this deck. I give it a C+. C+. This deck didn't hit for me. Not that it's not a good deck. It's a great deck. Soft as all hell. Like I always say, I swear to God, I think the softer these decks coming out of USPC are getting softer and softer and softer. It's crazy to me. But nonetheless, a really great deck. But you got to understand, what might not be for me might not exactly not be for you. Anyway, so like I said, I really like this deck. This is definitely thinking out of the box, no pun intended. They definitely went a different route. But with that said, I don't understand the one thing that's kind of throwing me off a little bit, and I get it in a sense, but at the same time, it's kind of confusing, is they had this winning kind of recipe when they were using Adrian Valenzuela for the first two releases when they did Fluid as well as Oblique. Adrian being this very seasoned designer and creator, working on decks such as the Memento Moris, the originals, as well as the NSXs, doing other decks as well as, the Serious Bs. He's worked with companies such as Riffle Shuffle, Murphy's Magic, creators like, Chris Ramsey and so on. So then they started kind of going with different designers, especially with the last deck and then now this one. Now, the thing that I do understand about it is CardCutz has always been a very, very nice, reputable, and generous company. They always have been nice to me. I've been with them since the beginning, and I cannot stress it enough how much I appreciate them always taking care of me when new decks come out. But with that said, like I said, it's like they want to give these other creators and designers a chance, kind of switch it up a little bit, right? That's the one thing that I can appreciate. They're always trying to help the next person. And that's something I can definitely get behind always. So good job. But like I said, this is definitely different. Definitely different. A lot of it for me is I haven't had a chance to really mess around with the deck too much. I got it. I took it around the block a couple times, shuffles and stuff like that. And the more that I use it, the more it's kind of like, okay, all right. It's kind of hitting a little different. But a lot of it for me is too, you got to understand, is a lot of these cardistry decks and whatnot, it's not that I don't like them. It's just that I'm not a big cardistry guy. I love cardistry, like I always tell you, but as far as doing cardistry and really getting behind the science of it and appreciating it the way that a lot of these guys and girls do is something that I just am not at that point right now. I love my standard traditionalized decks. That's just something that's always going to be there. So yeah, so that's where a lot of it comes from. It's not that it's a bad deck at all. But I love how they did this. Like I said, every deck is different. Usually when you have a designer, a creator, or whatever, usually there's a pattern, right? With CardCutz, you can put all 4 of these releases that they have had, literally, in a line and say, what creator do you think did this? And you would not be able to say it if you didn't know who it was, because you would think that it was 4 different creators. That's how different these decks are. And that's another thing that I really appreciate. That originality, that stuff that they're doing is stuff that nobody else is really doing. People are sticking to the same old silhouettes, the same old patterns, the same old whatever. And they do it because it's a lazy thing. They're comfortable. They're content in what they're doing, and that's something that's not cool. I could definitely sit here and name a couple designers that are doing that, but hey, it's not what we're here for. So maybe another day. You never know. But nonetheless, like I said, this is an amazing deck. I suggest you guys really go out and check these out. I mean, it's very fun. It's different. It's not like any other deck that you've ever seen. If you're a cardist and you're looking for that next great deck, here it is. I promise you this is going to be the one. That steampunk-ish, it's just amazing. I love it. But like I said, it doesn't have my double backers and all this and that I appreciate. So that's the reason why I got the score that it got. So Like I said, you might give this an A+ all the way around. I guarantee you might, for sure. So go ahead and guys, check this out. Like I said, I'll link everything down below in the description as always, where you guys can head over and grab a few of these, maybe a brick, maybe two, you never know. So yeah, so that's all I can say about this deck, guys. I do want to thank CardCutz as always for blessing me with this deck so I could do the review for you. And if you enjoyed this review, you know what to do. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you beautiful people on the next one.